Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to 2019. So I've decided to start the year off with a bang with one of the biggest true crime cases of our time, and that would be Caylee Anthony. Bombshell tonight.
Bombshell tonight.
Sorry, I felt obligated to say that. So this video is brought to you by the book Mommy's Little Girl by Diane Fanning. It's a very good true crime book. It has everything that leads up to the trial. So basically everything in this video, but in a lot more detail. I will post the Amazon link to that book in the description box below. Caylee Anthony was born in 1986 in Warren, Ohio. But she grew up in Orlando with her older brother Lee, her mom Cindy, and her dad George. Caylee was really popular and bubbly as a young girl. She had tons of little boyfriends.
Why are you gonna do that? That's dumb. Why are you guys doing our day after school? Okay. Yeah.
Where are you going?
Nothing, I was just waiting for tea.
But Caylee Anthony had become a pathological liar long before her daughter Caylee was even born. So Caylee actually stopped attending high school the last part of her senior year, so she didn't actually have enough credits to graduate. But she continued on planning her graduation party, sending out invitations, picking out a dress, all that stuff like it was going to happen. About a day before the graduation, the school called Cindy to let her know that Caylee did not have the credits to graduate and she would not be able to walk with her class. Instead of, calling everything off, Cindy told Caylee not to tell anyone about it, and they went on accepting gifts, pretend like everything was normal. So from everything that I've seen and read, Cindy Anthony definitely ruled that house. Her husband George very much follows her lead, and I'm sure with Caylee it was the same thing. When Caylee was 19, she became pregnant. No one to this day knows who the father is, and my guess is that Caylee herself doesn't even know. But it is widely reported to be a man she had a one-night stand with who died in a car accident. But we'll never know, I guess. And in what I think is one of the saddest and definitely most frustrating parts of this story, Caylee actually wanted to give the child up for adoption.
Newly released documents are adding a new wrinkle to a missing child case in Florida that has captured national attention. The documents show that 3 years ago, Caylee Anthony wanted to give her daughter Caylee up for adoption, but her mother opposed it. Legal documents from the case show that a high school friend offered to adopt Caylee Anthony before she was born. Cindy Anthony, Caylee's mother, reportedly wouldn't allow it.
Several months into her pregnancy, quite into it, Caylee and her mom Cindy attended a wedding for Cindy's brother, and everyone kept asking about the pregnant girl. Cindy would go on denying to everyone, saying that Caylee was not pregnant and she was a virgin and she had just put on some weight. So that just shows you the level of dysfunction that was going on in this family. When Caylee did finally give birth to a little baby who she named Caylee, it was apparently a joy to everyone. Cindy and George were thrilled to raise a child again. They considered Caylee not just Caylee's daughter, but theirs as well.
Bunches of eggs, huh?
Go to the side. Swim. Swim. Kick your feet. Kick your feet. Uh-oh. Come on. Kick. Kick. Kick.
those feet. Kick them, kick them, kick them.
And for her part, Casey seemed to be a really loving and devoted mom.
I'm recording. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that with that.
You're gonna be all over the camera.
I'm recording.
Both are.
That memory stick does it. Okay, cool. Caylee Marie. Hey, look. Hi.
Say cheese. Oh God.
Where's his feet?
Oh God. Oh God. Hi. Oh, you're stepping on my chest.
So, a typical day in the life at the Anthony house after Caylee was born, Grandma Cindy would leave first thing in the morning to her job as a home care nurse. Casey and her daughter Caylee would leave next. Casey would drop Caylee off at a nanny named Zanny before Casey headed to her job as an event planner at Universal Studios. George was a retired cop and he worked security, so he was home most of the day. So, despite appearing to have a really good job, Casey apparently was stealing money and her mom found out.
Hundreds of pages of documents released in the case against Casey Anthony, and the allegations are deep, running from drug use to stealing thousands of dollars from her parents and even stealing from her own grandmother. West 2's Kendra Astrike has been poring over the newly released documents. And Kendra, how much money are we talking about here?
A lot of money, Mark, thousands of dollars. Fleisha believes the unemployed 22-year-old may have stolen as much as $45,000 from her parents, possibly by taking out credit cards in Cindy's name. The mounting bills forced Cindy to tap into her 401k and nearly cost the Anthonys their home on Hope Spring Drive. The grandma says she first learned of Casey's thievery when she discovered Casey had stolen one of her checks and spent $54 to buy a cake and party favors for Caylee's second birthday, then wrote another check from Fleisha's account for $354 to pay her cell phone bill.
On the night of June 15th, 2008, Cindy confronted Casey over the stolen money and things got super heated.
To Mark Williams, reporter and anchor, standing by there at the jail in Florida. Mark, what's the latest?
Well, the latest, of course, is, Nancy, we have tons of video and audio to go through, and a lot of us are just going through it right now. One of the things that we found out is Jesse Grund, one of Casey Anthony's ex-boyfriends, speaking to Orange County SO investigators, said that Lee Anthony, Casey's brother, said Cindy and Casey had a knockdown, drag-out fight on June 15th. It got so violent that Cindy grabbed Casey by the throat and started to choke her.
During that fight, Cindy called Casey a sociopath as well as an unfit mother. Apparently, Casey had been dropping Caylee on her parents, even on her days off, so that she could go out and party with her friends. Next day, Casey packed up and took her daughter Caylee. They moved out of her parents' house and in with her boyfriend of a few weeks, college student and DJ Tony Lazaro. So Cindy had already left for work while Casey and Caylee were still sleeping. So the grandfather, George, was the last person to ever see Caylee. Casey resurfaced again at 7 p.m. She was caught on video surveillance with her boyfriend Tony. They were casually strolling the aisles of Blockbuster. They ended up renting Jumper and Untraceable. They went back to Tony's place, and Casey, who had previously been very anti-drug, anti-marijuana, smoked with her boyfriend daily.
Smoke weed every day.
Now that is a trip I would have paid to see. Like, you never try pot, and then when your daughter goes missing, dies, you kill her, whatever, then you decide to try pot. No. girl, that's really not a good idea. So, for the next 31 days, with Caylee not with her and no mention of her, Casey continued about with her boyfriend, doing mostly mundane things, but she did do a pretty few insane things. She entered a hot body contest at Fusion nightclub where her boyfriend was DJing.
Everybody look at Hollywood, doing it good. Everybody look at Hollywood, doing it good. Everybody look at Hollywood, doing it good.
She also got a tattoo on her back that says Bella Vita, which means the beautiful life in Italian. Grandma Cindy, who was used to taking care of Caylee pretty much, kept calling Casey to try to talk to Caylee and see how she was. But Casey always had an excuse to why Caylee couldn't come to the phone. She was either with a nanny or at the beach, she was at Disney World, all these other places. So on July 15th, which would be 31 days since Caylee had last been seen, Grandpa George and Grandma Cindy got a notice to come pick up Casey's car from a junkyard. Apparently she had abandoned it somewhere and it was towed. As they went to open the car, they detected a really foul smell, and George, being a former police officer, thought that it smelled like a dead body. So as he went to open the trunk, he was praying that neither his granddaughter Caylee or his daughter Casey was in that trunk. And they were not. Just some rotting pizza and a bunch of garbage. At this point, Cindy had it officially. She talked to one of Casey's friends and tracked Casey down to Tony's apartment and literally dragged her out of there. She demanded to see Caylee. She wanted to know where she was. Again, Casey said she's with Zanny. So Grandma Cindy said, okay, take me to Zanny. They kept driving around in circles, and Casey kept making up excuses until eventually Cindy called 911.
There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the car.
Grandmother Cindy Anthony made a pair of 911 calls when she realized her granddaughter was missing. The first one was to ask police to come and arrest her daughter, Casey Anthony, and to report her granddaughter Caylee was missing.
I have someone here that I need to be arrested in my home. They're there right now? A possible missing child.
During that call, Cindy Anthony also accused her daughter of stealing her car and money. 2 hours later, a much more frantic call.
I called a little bit ago, the deputy sheriff saying I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Cindy Anthony cries through the report to the dispatcher.
My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her.
Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her a month ago that my daughter's been looking for.
The grandmother goes on to describe the missing 3-year-old. Then the dispatcher asks to speak to the toddler's mother.
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days. And you know who has her?
I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today.
The dispatcher gets some details from the young mother, then asks, why now?
Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago?
I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
The police, of course, come and ask Casey some questions.
I'm sorry. Back on June 9th, 2008, you took Casey to a babysitter's house.
Yes.
And who was this babysitter?
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
Do you know how to spell the first name?
Zenaida.
And where was Zenaida's? Where did you drop your child off?
The Sawgrass Apartments on Conway, Michigan.
Do you remember the address?
I don't remember the address.
Do you remember an apartment number?
210.
Okay.
It's on the second floor.
If you were to pull into the Sawgrass Apartments, would the building be the one closest to the road, furthest back, halfway?
As soon as you go straight, you go over one speed bump, and it's the first one on the right-hand side.
Okay, is there a pool next to it, or is there anything about the apartment that stands out?
There's a welcome sign. It's, I guess there's a little shed close to the building, maybe about 10 yards away.
Okay. How long had you known Zenaida?
Almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years Christmas this year.
And where did you meet her? Who did you meet her through?
A mutual friend. His name is Jeffrey Michael Hopkins. I met him at Nickelodeon at Universal, and I met her through him. She was his son's nanny at the time.
Does Jeffrey still work at Universal?
No, he does not.
How long has it been since he left?
About 9-10 months, give or take.
He moved back to Jacksonville?
He moved up to North Carolina for a short time and moved down to Jacksonville within the last 3 months.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
About a week and a half ago.
Okay. Do you know a telephone number for him?
I can find a number for him. I don't know a number offhand. No, I do not.
You mentioned something before we went on to think about your cell phones.
Yes. I have 2 phones. I just received a new phone through work, through Universal. The phone won't keep charged, so I use my old phone that I actually had gotten, again, through Universal for work.
Okay. Did you lose a phone?
Yes.
Was it your personal phone?
It was my personal phone, but I also use it for business.
Okay. What's the number for the phone that you lost?
It's
Did
the
you
same
keep
number.
that same number?
Yes, it's
You
still
just
the
lost
same
the
number.
phone.
I just lost the phone.
And in that phone, you're saying was the SIM card, and the SIM card had the contact
Actually,
information?
the SIM card is in my Nokia phone, but I know there's numbers saved to the cell phone itself. So if we get the actual phone, I know I have one other number for Zenaida, and probably a number for Jeff besides work numbers, and
But they're not in your SIM card?
they're not saved on the SIM card, they're saved on the phone. I've been trying to figure out on that new phone how to save numbers from the phone to the SIM card and switch them back and forth. So that way I have everything all in one piece.
Okay, so the phone where you had the number saved was lost.
Yes, I filed an incident report.
But how did you end up keeping the SIM card?
I had taken it out. I know I left the phone on my desk at work after I'd switched the SIM card back to my old phone, because this was the phone that actually would keep charge.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to have a working phone instead of having a phone that would only stay charged for about a half hour and then it would die and I can't make any more calls. It's, for me, not
So
practical.
after you switched the SIM card is when the phone went?
I left it. I know I left it on my desk, and I hadn't been at work for at least 3 or 4 days.
And you said you made a report to Universal? Or?
Yes, with security.
When
9
was that?
days ago.
9 days ago?
Yes,
Okay. So you met Zenaida through Jeffrey Hopkins.
I did.
And his son Zach Hopkins, I guess. Zenaida used to watch over Zach?
Yes,
And you say you've known Zenaida for about 4 years?
almost 4 years.
So
Yes.
you knew her before you had your child?
Well, I met her just before I was actually pregnant at the time. So,
And when did she start watching over your child?
it's been within the last 1.5 to 2 years that she started watching Caylee. I had another friend watch Caylee that I've known since middle school. When she went back to school, I was looking for a new nanny. Jeff offered to have Zenaida watch both kids. She agreed, and it kind of went from there.
The police leave and go to investigate everything Casey tells them. And it turns out everything she told them was a lie. The address she gave for Zanny had been vacant for months. All of the phone numbers for Zanny and everyone else were non-existent. And Casey didn't even work at Universal Studios. But just to see how far Casey would take her lies, the cops the next day picked Casey up and drove her to Universal Studios so that she could pick something up from her non-existent office. We get to the front desk at Universal and the security guard says, "There's no Casey Anthony that works here." And Casey's like, yeah, I really do. I just forgot my badge. So the police are right behind her, so the security is just like, whatever, lets her in. Casey leads the detectives down a bunch of hallways and a bunch of buildings towards her office, As she's walking, she's waving to people like she knows them, and they're all looking at her like... Eventually, they get to the absolute end of the hallway. Caylee puts her hands in the back of her jeans pockets, turns around, and says, "I don't work here for real. They fired me years ago." So at this point, the cops bring Caylee into a room to have a more serious discussion with her.
Everything you told me is a lie, correct?
Not everything that I told you.
Okay. Pretty much everything that you've told me, including where Caylee is right now.
That I don't know where she is.
Sure you do. And here's,
I absolutely
listen,
do not know where she is.
Let me explain something. Together, a combined experience in this room, we all have about 30 years of doing this. Okay, both myself and Sergeant John Allen worked for the Homicide Division for several years. We've dealt with several people. We've conducted thousands of interviews between the three of us. You know, Appy's got 20 years, so just between the three of us, we've got several years. And I can tell you for a certainty that right now, looking at you, I know that everything that you've told me is a lie, including the fact that, you know, your child was last seen about a month ago, and that you don't know where she is. See, I'm very confident, just by having talked to you this short period of time, that you know where she is.
I don't.
You do. And here's the thing, we need to get past that, because we can sit here and go back and forth all day long about I don't, I do, I don't, I do. It's pretty obvious that with everything that you've told us, nothing has been truth. You know where she is. Now, my question to you is this. We need to find Caylee. I understand that right now, Caylee may not be in very good shape. You understand what I'm saying? She may not be the way or the way your family last remembers her. We need to find out from you where Caylee is. This right now is this is going so far downhill, and this has become such a mess that we need to end it. It's very simple. We just need to end it.
I agree with you. I have no clue where she is.
Sure you do.
If I knew in any sense where she was, this wouldn't have happened at all.
It
wouldn't have happened whatsoever.
This stuff about Zanny, the caretaker or the nanny taking care of him,
it's the truth.
It's not the truth, because it went to the apartment complex. There's no person that ever lived there by that name. The apartment's been vacant since March. That same apartment. Now, the apartment that you pointed out to me, the two-story apartment, that's an old folks' home. It's right across the street from your ex-boyfriend's house, who you never mentioned. And you said you wrote the address down because it was across the street. That's a lie, because I've already talked to him, and we've already been by the house, and we've already looked at everything we need to look at over there. Everything you told us is a lie.
Stop me at the part that isn't the truth, okay? You take your daughter and you drop her off on June the 9th, okay, at a babysitter's house, okay? Now, this is a babysitter that lives at this apartment, okay, that's been vacant.
I dropped her off at that apartment,
okay,
at those stairs.
Oh, you just walked her, you dropped her off?
Walked her to the stairs. That's where I've dropped her off a bunch of other times, besides just that day.
Okay, and when you dropped her off, who took her at that point?
Zanny did. She took her at that point.
You left her in Zanny's care on June the 9th.
Since I left you this morning, I've gone to every address that you've told me. I've looked up every name. I've talked to every person that you wanted me to talk to or tried to. I've reached out. I've talked to your ex-boyfriend. I've talked to Amy. I've talked to Tony. I came over here. I've already talked to all the employees. I found out all these names that you're giving me are people that either never worked here or have been fired here for a long time ago. Okay.
Caylee is charged with child neglect and making false statements, and she is put in jail. So the interesting thing was, if this had been in pretty much any other state, we might never have heard of Caylee Anthony. But Florida has this law called the Sunshine Law, which means that everything that is available to police is also available to the media. So once the media got hold of all this information, Caylee and her daughter Caylee became national news.
Of controversy continues. It was right at this very moment, 7 p.m. Eastern, that Cindy Anthony had hoped to meet with her daughter.
Caylee Anthony clears a hurdle. She's now one step closer to having taxpayers pay for her legal fees. All this as cops release a ton of new DNA evidence. There's just one.
People do lots of horrible parenting, but when they have a support system available, they usually kind of turn it.
Caylee, why did you wait so long to report your daughter's disappearance?
Where's baby?
Is you really expect people to believe you gave your daughter away a month ago?
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
You know, let me
Shut up.
Let me tell you one thing. That is the reason why I got a phone call
Shut
at 11 o'clock last night. The lady was crying
I'm
because
done
that
with you
kind of
guys.
stuff
Leave me
on the
alone.
radio or on the news that
Let's
she
go.
held back.
Let us go.
That
Let's
she
go.
held back
Let's
for
go.
4
Come on.
weeks
Just
calling
with
it a
these guys.
tip because she was afraid, and they just spotted Caylee again. So you guys better just
My way. If you want to be knocked down, get out of my way. Do not come past here. Please, do not come past. Out of the respect for these other people for a change.
And I know you don't have faith.
Shut up.
No, I'm not shutting up. Tell me I can't pray. Yes, you did. You went on TV
Shut the
and
door,
said I
please.
should be praying. No, we're going. We're out of here. I can't stomach the man.
How'd it go in there today,
What
Cindy?
happened?
What made you outburst right now?
Why won't they let you pray, Cindy? What happened?
What did they ask you today, Cindy? How did you feel it went?
Guys,
George, how are you doing today?
And no one on the elevator, please.
George, can you tell us what's going on with this praying? You guys seem really
Listen.
frustrated about this.
Be quiet.
You think they asked you fair questions today, George? Is there anything that you didn't want to answer? Cindy, how about you?
Caylee Anthony has made it onto a stage in Australia. Top Mom is playing to sold-out crowds, with actors playing everyone from Casey to Nancy Grace. One of Casey's attorneys says the play proves the media's impact on this case.
It tells me that the media process needs to take a different look at itself. You know, it's one thing to cover a trial and to cover a case. It's another thing to create one.
And you may recognize the man who created it. Steven Soderbergh is known for producing and directing the movie Ocean's 11.
One person in particular, former prosecutor turned TV host Nancy Grace, covered Caylee Anthony incessantly. She nicknamed her Top Mom.
Jesse Grund. He is the ex-fiance of the Top Mom, Caylee Anthony.
And for years, every night would be about Caylee and Caylee. They would talk about the most mundane things, like what Caylee ordered for lunch in prison, and they had body language experts on to talk about how slow Caylee was blinking. It was just complete insanity. In August of 2008, a bounty hunter from Arizona named Leonard Padilla, that's how he says his name, I don't know if that's right or not, but that's how he pronounces it.
Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to go live to Leonard Padilla. He's a bounty hunter out there in Arizona. Leonard Padilla.
We're doing a live
Mr.
show
Padilla,
here, Nancy. We're doing
Mr. Padilla, are you
Nancy?
there? I've lost the feed.
Anyway, he paid Caylee Anthony's $500,000 bail and got her out of jail and back to her parents' house. Leonard Padilla's team stayed at the Anthony house with Caylee. The whole point of them getting Caylee out of jail was in hopes that she would tell them where Caylee was. Spoiler, she didn't. But the team did notice some of Caylee's really bizarre behavior at that house. The first thing she said when she got home from jail was, "What's for dinner? Jail food sucks." Caylee seemed really comfortable. She was watching The Hills on MTV. She was watching American Psycho, fitting. At one point, there was a news report that Caylee Anthony was going to be charged with murder, and her response to all this was, "They don't even have an effing body yet." Whenever anyone tried to talk to Caylee about Caylee, Caylee would just somehow change the subject back to herself. At one point, she was wearing sunglasses to go to her lawyer's office, and she asked a woman if she looked like Jackie O. Just really weird stuff. At one point, the team heard crying coming from Caylee's room, so they got really excited. They thought for the very first time this woman is showing some kind of emotion over her child being missing. But when they went to her room, they discovered Caylee was not crying. She was actually giggling over a message she got on Facebook. Apparently, a hot guy had messaged her and said, "Caylee, you're beautiful." And so while Caylee was chilling inside, there were protesters, and I use that term very loosely, outside just protesting and arguing with the grandparents of Caylee.
Come on, fuckers. Come on, all of you. Come on. Come on. I'm right here. Come on. I'm right here.
Go get your granddaughter. Get your granddaughter. Come on. Don't touch me again.
Come on. I'm filing charges on you. What'd you knock on the door? What'd you She's going to grab my shirt right there.
Yeah, that's a 3-year-old whose tombstone you're putting in front of her parents' house,
See
right?
the date?
Excuse me?
See the dates?
Yeah,
She's 3 years old.
Sir, that's so disrespectful and so disgusting. Oh my God forbid anything like this ever, what they're going through ever happens to any of you or your family. I just feel so bad for you. I mean, definitely. I mean, you're that sick. Come on now. Don't you think that's kind of wrong to put that Caylee Anthony, rest in peace? That's fine.
Tell me, what kind of reaction do you think you're going to get out of the family when they see this?
Well, maybe they'll realize that, well, they'll come to the conclusion that she's dead. Maybe they'll move in a different direction.
You think that's your job to do that to them?
Somebody's got to do it.
Your daughter drives and your brother drives and they're smiling? Do they sleep together?
I think that people should show support.
Is that what you're hiding? Do they sleep together? Are they coming and giving high fives and smiling?
But you guys would, this lady has not.
Yeah, go send her where she's supposed to go. Don't tell people to go where they're supposed to go. Send your daughter where she's supposed to go. You're a joke. You should be a disgrace to yourself.
How can any attorney sleep in peace defending someone who killed us?
Well, you know what? How do you know they sleep in peace? Are you inside their house?
Hey, if your child missing, would you be sitting out here saying thanks for polluting the media and the jury? No, you would not. You'd be right here with us. You would be standing right here saying the same thing about your child.
What happened again now?
Because I had the baby in my hand. He just was right next to me. He couldn't even stop. Of course I hit the car to make him stop because there's a baby. What's he going to do, run us over?
He didn't even slow down. He just put way in.
Was that your niece you almost hit or your sister?
It's my friend.
Your friend?
Yeah.
Cindy Anthony's on the phone with the police.
And which why?
I'm assuming because we're standing in her driveway.
No, we were in their driveway.
Oh, she hit her son's car when she almost hit my daughter, or he almost hit my daughter.
Amber, is all of this worth it? This is really getting out of hand, don't you think?
Yes, it is. And I mean,
But is it worth it, all of this?
it's worth it for that baby. It really is.
This clip really bothered me, and this is a video about a missing dead child. But seriously, who goes to, forget Casey, who goes to outside the house and torments grandparents of a missing child who had nothing to do with her going missing in the first place? Casey was inside. She didn't hear all of this. She didn't care anyway. And laying a tombstone for the child in their driveway, are you crazy? Who does that? Like, I'm sorry, but no one... In that video, I didn't see genuine concern about that child. I'm sure there is, but it felt more of people just being outraged because the media told them to, or comparing themselves, like, I might be this and that, but I didn't kill my kid. And it's just kind of screwed up, you know? I'm sorry for that rant. That clip just really bothered me. I mean, you're gonna let your own kid get run over because you're busy screaming at the family of this missing child? Like, seriously? So, as I said, Casey would not tell the bounty hunter where Caylee was, and eventually it came to the point where Casey screamed at the bounty hunter, "Get the F out of my house." So at that point, Leonard Padilla revoked Casey's bail, and she was put back in jail.
Casey Anthony.
So George and Cindy go to visit Casey in jail a couple times before Casey's lawyer cuts off the visits because they are filmed.
Casey, you don't realize that the whole United States is looking for our Caylee.
I know that, Mom.
Her cover's going to be on People magazine in a few days.
Okay.
Everybody is looking for her.
Good.
Everybody is looking for her. Are we going to be able to find her, do you think?
I hope we can, Mom. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask Lee.
Can you look up a little bit more? Raise your eyes up a little bit. There you go. So now, look straight up so I can look into your eyes, darling. Thank you. I need to do that.
Mom,
no, Casey,
I'm not getting mad at you. I know you're not.
In front of the cameras all the time. What message do you want me to give to Zanny and to Caylee? What do you want me to tell Zanny?
That she needs to return Caylee.
What do you think her reasons are?
Mom, I don't know.
Okay.
I forgive her. My only concern is that Caylee comes back to us and she's smiling and she's happy and that she's okay.
Okay. What do you want me to tell Caylee?
That Mommy loves her very much.
What's your gut telling you right now?
My gut's telling me that she's okay.
Okay. And your gut tells you that she's close or she's hiding?
She's not far. I know in my heart she's not far. I can feel it.
Okay.
So, sadly, she wasn't wrong about Caylee being close.
Police now suspect that a utility worker's grisly discovery, a bag full of little bones, may just be the remains of 3-year-old Caylee Anthony. And now a Florida medical examiner backs them up, saying there is evidence to link those remains to the toddler's house. Investigators won't say for sure it's the missing toddler, not until DNA tests are finished. The bones were found by a utility company worker on a wooded lot just a few blocks from the house where Caylee lived with her grandparents.
We've recovered this human skull. It appears to be that of a small child.
Caylee's mother, Casey Anthony, was arrested in October and charged with murdering her daughter, even though no body was found. Today, the mother's attorney asked to inspect the remains, but a judge said they must wait for a positive identification. The mother had insisted that she'd left the girl with a babysitter in June, but didn't report the child missing until July. She's now under psychological observation in jail. Investigators say they hope to know as soon as this weekend whether they can attach the name Caylee to this tiny victim.
Jailhouse cameras captured Casey's reaction as news reports played on the TV of Caylee's remains being found.
Judge who presided over her murder trial ordered the release of jailhouse video late Friday. Correspondent Bigatch Ban reports.
Hyperventilating and bent over in grief, a newly released prison video shows a grainy image of Casey Anthony as she learned a child's body had been discovered in a swamp near her parents' Orlando home. It would be more than a week before the body was identified as that of her 2-year-old daughter, Caylee. This video, shot in 2008 but released Friday, had been under seal, considered too inflammatory to show jurors.
What do you think Casey was thinking in that video? I'd like to hear your thoughts about that in the comments. I think that is more than enough for part 1. Please tune in for part 2, the trial of Casey Anthony. Alright, I will see you later. Bye.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you